Yeah, some of you did it. Howdy. Yeah, and you smiled. It's a way to say hello that makes you smile, so that's why we do it. So yeah, my name is Jason Ballard. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Icon. Icon is a construction technology company based in Austin, Texas. And, oh, there we go. And we are developing construction technologies to try to solve the global housing crisis and to try to build an incredible future for the advanced civilization that we hope humanity can be. In short, like trying to develop intelligent machines that will build a human world. And I'm looking forward to talking about the journey we've been on today. But before I do, it's sort of a personal journey for me. I grew up in Southeast Texas, very small town. And Southeast Texas is actually the most biodiverse region of all of North America. So I had a cool, National Geographic childhood. There's roseate spoonbills that look like pink flamingos. There are alligator gar, they're prehistoric fish, 4 species of carnivorous plants that eat things. And flying squirrels. It was just a very cool way to grow up. But also, it's the largest concentration of petrochemical refineries in America. And so it's very high rates of cancer. Even though it's a really rural area, you can't see the stars at night because the refineries are glowing. If you like to go fishing around town, there's signs up that say, don't eat the fish. And so I went and studied conservation biology because I wanted to do something about this. And ultimately ended up in sustainable building technologies and services because buildings actually are the #1 offender in almost every category. While I was doing that, actually my first paying job out of college was as a programs director at a homeless shelter. So I got really deep experience around homelessness. In the meantime, my hometown was destroyed multiple times by hurricanes. My family has spent Christmas in FEMA trailers. And then I moved to Austin, Texas to become an entrepreneur. And you guys aren't going to believe this, but when we first moved there, not that long ago, my wife at the time, 2 kids, we have more now, a dog and a cat, but we bought our first house in Austin, Texas, close enough to city center to walk into town, and I'm gonna reveal a personal detail. We bought our house for $100,000. Yeah, right? And I could not have taken the risks or had the cool ride I've had if I had not been able to get housing for myself and my family so accessibly. So these issues of sustainability, homelessness, housing resiliency, housing affordability are very personal for me. And it feels like a life mission to do what I do. And maybe bring up the slides and we'll show a little bit about the journey. So I probably don't have to convince you that there's something called the global housing crisis, but I'd like to put some shape and contour to it a little bit. You see, we've been building the same way for about 1,000 years. And that's not CEO hyperbole. That is, if you Google or ChatGPT or whatever, show me a 1,000-year-old home, it will be planed lumber nailed to other boards or bricks and mortar. So the good news is we're very good at this way of building. But that's also sort of the bad news because the supply chains are very efficient, the best practices are well established, and it's just a pretty the machine sort of works as it were. And so as housing prices have been rising, builders and developers, there's almost nothing we can do to make that approach any better. We've made it about as good as we can after 1,000 years. And so all that builders and developers can do as they want to make homes more affordable is reduce the quality of the materials, reduce the quality of the labor, or sort of reduce the quality of design. And in fact, that's exactly what has happened, right? Sort of this phrase of cookie cutter monoculture housing you're all very familiar with. In response to this, cities and regulatory authorities have rightfully sort of increased regulation because they want safe, dignified, energy efficient, sort of a good housing stock in their communities. But of course, all these processes and extra steps and fees and forms to fill out increase cost and make it take even longer. So then you pull the levers of low quality harder, you regulate harder, and we're sort of in this doom loop of rising price and falling quality. It's probably the only category in the world that if you were given the opportunity between a 100-year-old home and a brand new home, you might take the 100-year-old home. That's not true of almost any other product in the world. And then, of course, the places where this is felt most acutely is places that have extreme climate events like hurricanes, wildfires, tornadoes. And then the people that feel it most acutely are, of course, the very poor who have very little ability to do anything about it. They can't buy their way out of it. They can't fix the problem with their resources. And this is not just a Western American problem. If you zoom out globally, well over 1 billion people are what they call under-sheltered. And that's a very inhumane word from my point. Under-sheltered means if you knew them and you cared about them, you couldn't stand for it. That's what under-sheltered means. And so our feeling at Icon is that we've got to find better ways to build. Sort of to put it in images a little bit, we hear a lot about like the American dream. That home over on the left behind me, nobody falls asleep dreaming about that. Like, that's not what people dream about. Multifamily construction is the most common kind of housing getting built right now. And over on the right there is like a sacred building. Right? Sort of this like supposed to express our deepest and most eternal and profound buildings or values. And that's the way we're building them. And that's not right. It's 2024. We ought to be building spaceports and cities and towns of the future and moon bases, not stuff that we're ashamed of, that we're charging more for all the time. And so we found it. There we go. Yep. So to put some numbers on it, 1.6 billion people that we wouldn't stand for it if they were in this room and we saw how they lived. Rapidly increasing prices in homes, and millions of people priced out of home ownership every single year. And the home is a foundation for so many other things, other kind of wealth creation, education, stability of relationships, just very, very important. And it's hard to imagine the future being good and cool if we don't get housing right. So maybe you all agree with me, so like, where do we start? So this is the latest numbers from the National Association of Home Builders of how long and how much it takes to build a home in America. And it's about $650,000, the average cost of a new home in America today. And if you look there, of course, construction proper, the actual act of construction, is the most expensive part at $400,000. And at Icon, we think we're gonna fix that with robots. So profound automation that can do what automations have always done: increase the quality, increase the speed, and lower the cost. That's a complicated thing to say, like, which robots do you want to start with? Do you want a painting robot? Do you want a roofing robot? Do you want a siding robot? And if you look a little further, you sort of decompose the problem. It's actually the wall system that is the slowest, most expensive, most labor-intensive part of building a home. And so we decided we wanted robots that build walls. Walls also create the form and feeling of a home, so it's just like a very powerful automation to begin with. I won't tell you all the robots and ways we looked at, but ultimately, we landed on giant 3D printers is the way that we wanted to build wall systems, because 3D printers had a simple, high-performance supply chain, labor could approach zero, and you'd leave a ton of design freedom still on the table. And it's not just a pretty picture. There's the fleet of these printers deployed 3D printing an entire neighborhood in Austin that we'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. And over the past few years, we have worked very hard to finally for me to be able to stand on stages like this and be able to say, we are the fastest, most affordable to build walls of any quality in the world, full stop. And it's not that, thank you. But it's not just that we've replaced traditional wall systems. Our wall systems are much more energy efficient. They exceed Austin Energy building code for energy efficiency by about 200%. They're stronger, safer, more resilient. They're sort of better in every way. And rarely do you get something that is better, faster, and cheaper. And I think that's what we're onto. And so we kind of feel like we got a tiger by the tail. And we're pretty excited about it. We think it's faster. We think the cost is lower. We think you can leave lots of design freedom on the table, right? Like, people don't want millions or thousands of the same homes. It's a little bit too intimate, a little bit too personal. Industrially scalable because it's robots, high performance I talked about, and should approach zero waste. If any of you have ever been at a construction site, sometimes it looks like there's more waste than house. But with 3D printing, you print what you need to the drop, and then you stop. And that's cool not just because it rhymes, that's cool because construction waste is a huge problem. And so on this journey for the past 6 years, we sort of started by delivering the first permitted 3D printed home in the world about 6 years ago. We then did a series of social housing projects for the homeless in Austin, and then also down in Mexico for people living in deep poverty there. In 2020, we entered mainstream housing in America, so this was a big deal because we were able to get the homes appraised, mortgage, insured, so it was like a lot of regulatory breakthroughs. We have continued to try to innovate on the kind of architecture that's possible with 3D printing, ultimately meeting and then exceeding the cost of conventional building and now building at neighborhood scale. We've done about 200 buildings in total, everything from like high-end luxury housing to like really interesting pieces of public infrastructure. That's a 1,000-person amphitheater that we delivered in Austin, Texas. From the day the design was done to the day they had the grand opening at South by Southwest was 69 days for a 1,000-person amphitheater. Some affordable housing and homes for the homeless down the bottom, and then some pretty cool experimental stuff I'll talk about more in a minute. So we really feel like we're moving. This is some more pictures for the 3D printed neighborhood in the Austin metro area in a place called Wolf Ranch. These homes are $50 to $100K cheaper than the median home price in Austin, and they include standing seam metal roofs, solar panels. I mean, like, these are pound for pound the best homes for sale in all of Austin. So if anybody's looking for homes in Austin, maybe talk to Lennar. But we're not done yet. we got to make it even cheaper. $10 a square foot is not enough. We really need to attack cost a lot more. What about two-story homes? What about multi-story? What about apartments? We've got to tackle that too. And what about the rest? The walls are cool, Jason. We're tracking with you why you guys started with the walls, but what about the rest? We really want to squeeze more out of this automation, print the foundations, print the roofs, do things like that. And so 100 days ago at South by Southwest, we unveiled our next generation printer that we're calling the Phoenix. Phoenix delivers the full shell, the foundation, multi-story wall systems, and roof for about half the price of full shell delivery with conventional construction, 2 to 3 stories of printing, 24,000 square foot at a single print. Less than a person can operate a robot. What that means is one person can operate 2 or 3 of these at a time. And we're increasing automation all the time, and there's some pretty powerful software on board. So that you know that wasn't just a pretty picture. I know we like pretty pictures here. There's the prototype of that printer that we showed off at South by Southwest, and the very first thing it ever printed. To give you a sense of scale, that building is over 100 feet long and almost 30 feet tall. And it looks like it was put there by like a race of alien priests or something. I mean, it's like a very, very cool building. And it makes you realize the world could be so much cooler than it is. And we have like probably even stopped dreaming because these conversations about housing are so damn depressing. But this thing is cool. It looks like it cost $5 million and probably would cost $5 million. In fact, it was closer to $150,000 to do this, and that was the first time we ever tried. And so pretty cool. Yeah. And so what next? We're liking the robots. We think there's a lot more robots in our future. But we've got to attack the rest of this problem if we really want to move the needle all the way. I'm dreaming about something like homes that are twice as good in half the time and half the price. Like that'd be the kind of revolution and breakthrough we need to get this thing back on track. And so we're going to have to think about these things that happen before and after construction as well. These are information processing problems. They're software problems. And this is sort of where our partnership with Figma has been so important to us. It's like finding ways to do these in very human, to develop these advanced technologies in very like human-centric ways. And so because I'm here at Figma, I want to sort of maybe like highlight specifically our work on this moment of design and architecture. You'll see there, according to the National Association of Home Builders, the average cost of architecture for a new home in America is $5,000. That's a funny number. Are there any architects here? Yeah. Would you design an entire house for $5,000? Hell no. That's exactly right. Because it takes 90 to 120 days probably. If you did $5,000, you'd make $15,000 a year. Can't do it. So what that number tells me is on average, there are no architects involved. You weren't a plant, but you were very good. Thank you, friend. And so we've dispensed with architecture altogether. And this cannot be the way we get affordable housing, team. Like, we can't defy physics, but like design is like the emergent property that sits on top of the laws of physics, that expresses our values and hopes and directionality for where we think we're headed. And we cannot throw that overboard. We can't throw beauty overboard for sustainable transport. We can't throw it overboard for housing. We can't throw it overboard for AI. Like, beauty will save the world. Beauty is the difference, actually, between dystopia and utopia, both metaphorically and probably literally. If we don't find a way to do what we do at Icon beautifully, it will be a curse to the world instead of a blessing. And so we have been working very hard to figure out how to make sure we hold the requirements of design right alongside the technical requirements of what we're doing. How do we sort of like fix this problem? Some of you designers have already seen this for a long time. When I show this to my engineers, they think it's so funny because they've never seen it, but most designers have seen it already. But yeah, everybody thinks they want something to look good, but then the budget hits, and it gets tough. And so like this has definitely happened to the way we do housing. This is what happens when there's no more designers and no more architects involved in housing. It's this sort of like smiling curse. It's like kind of happy, but kind of like creepy. It's like to cover the earth in buildings like this. And so we've got to do better. And so what we've decided to do to try to both increase the design integrity of the way that we build, but keep the costs very low, is we have developed a digital catalog of homes that we call Codex. Right now, it's about 60 designs, Is it 1-bedroom homes, 4-bedroom homes, 2-story homes, 1 homes, fire-resistant homes, hurricane-resistant homes, homes as low as $99,000 to build, you heard that right, all the way up to homes over $1 million to build. We're adding new designs to it all the time, and we've opened up the platform to architects all over the world. And if you upload your designs into the catalog, when we build them, we'll pay you. And we think this is how you get high-integrity architecture that's ready to go, that you can click what you want, and we tell the robot to get to work. And maybe this is a better way to build homes, both that are more resilient, more sustainable, and affordable, but also that keep beauty and human value at the table. So we're pretty excited about this. Yeah, thank you. The other tool that we've built that we really have leaned on the tools that Figma has given us to push pretty hard in this is that we have been very quietly for 2 years developing an AI tool that knows how to design and build buildings. It's an AI architect, effectively, but also with the sensibility of a project manager or a general contractor. And so what that means is you go from very natural human inputs. Here are homes. Here's pictures of houses I like. Here's my budget. Here's where I want to build it. And what you get are designs that can actually get built. It's not just an image generator. We've had to assemble and label and train a massive amount of data on floor plans, building documents, architectural plans, so that it has a sensibility of what's possible to build, what won't defy the laws of physics, what do we have the technology to actually build. And we weren't sure that we were going to release it this year. But then I got this image back in about January or February of this year when I was playing with it. I have a thing for ranches, no surprise, and tree houses. And I was like working with tree houses, and all of a sudden I told it to like, that's a cool tree house, make it 3D printed. And it gave me this, and I thought we were finally had crossed some kind of line, and let me tell you why. Number one, there are no 3D printed tree houses in the world. It did not find this in its data, right? It made this, it intuited this. And more than intuited this, it understood something. It knew that a tree could not bear the weight of concrete. And so it detached the building from the tree and put support pillars underneath it. And I was like, my God, we've done it. Like, this is like worth putting in front of the people and worth putting out to the world. So we decided to release like a beta version that only sort of does concept generation at this point. But 9 months from today, and you can kind of track our progress, we are going to release the full end-to-end tool, which from natural human inputs will output architectural concepts that you can then iterate on, including in their finest details. And when you are ready, you will get construction documents, permitting information, budgets, and schedules from single sessions and natural human inputs. And I think it's going to be pretty incredible. We're pretty, yeah, thank you. These are just some of the things people are designing right now. The concept generator will give you floor plans, elevations, exterior renders, and interior renders, but that are coordinated, more or less, still hallucinates a little bit. And it's very cool what people are producing with the tools so far. In fact, we have like somewhere between like 10 and 15,000 users. I'm realizing right now I should have checked the number before I came. But Vitruvius will produce this year more novel home designs than all the architects in America put together. And we're not even like really trying to like pop the user thing a lot right now. Just a few like examples. This was like a courtyard house in Marfa. If you've ever been to Marfa, Texas, it nailed it. Like, this is exactly the local design vernacular. This would not belong in Charleston, South Carolina. It belongs in Marfa, and that is for sure the Chihuahuan Desert complete with mesquite trees. Like, it really understood what it was trying to do. Zaha Hadid, one of my favorite architects, if you say a Zaha Hadid-inspired ski cabin in Wolf Creek, I didn't even say mountains. It knew Wolf Creek is in the mountains. And that's very much in the spirit of the way Zaha Hadid would have designed. And it's like, so it really has a deep understanding of architectural history. And then futuristic moon base home in Austin, Texas, really drawing deeply on the design languages and vernaculars of like sci-fi literature and things like that. So these are like a few of the examples that Vitruvius is producing. But right now it's like surfacing these results kind of the way you'd get them from a human architect. It's like you go to an architect, you hire him, and he brings back 1 to 3 concepts, shows them to you, you can kind of play around. But Vitruvius is doing so much more than that, actually. And Figma has been invaluable, and I think when we finally get there, we'll owe a lot to the Figma team, because what Vitruvius is actually doing is exploring a massive design space. And trying to figure out how to put human beings in contact, in touch with these very powerful tools in a usable way is like the frontier of like UI UX design right now. And there was a temptation on those previous slides just to show it to people the way a human architect would do it. But there's something here, but there's also something unusable about this. But it does give you a sense of the raw power of the thing, doesn't it? Like a holy Moses. And so more to come on that. But ultimately, with the technological progress we make, like the kinds of homes at every price point that we're able to produce with this technology, those are like over on the top right there, is like a multi-story affordable unit that's cool, it's cool as shit. Like cool domed houses. I mean, just like, it makes me excited. It allows us to start entering higher density multifamily kind of markets. The next project we're doing is this cool project out in Marfa, Texas, with this woman. She's like a design legend in Austin, in Texas. Her name is Liz Lambert. And she has like really understood and embraced the possibilities of 3D printing. So it's hospitality and high-end luxury housing and a bunch of affordable workforce housing in the town. It's a very cool project. That Codex I just told you about, we've had the first homes from the catalog ordered that we're going to start construction on in 60 days because the designs are already ready to go. And this is a project we're doing in a high-density area of Austin later this year. Half of these units are affordable units, and this is not the affordable housing that we're used to. And so ultimately, we think by holding together high design and high technology and forcing them to cooperate instead of compete, that AI systems and robotic systems are going to build not only homes, we're going to build neighborhoods and villages and towns in one-day cities, and that dignified housing is going to be abundant in this world, that we will live with our own eyes to see an end to the global housing crisis, and that even though we're using AI and robots, if we can keep our values and design at the table, this world will be more human and not less. And so maybe the end of my parable here for all these designers and makers and creators and dreamers and entrepreneurs in the room is insist. Design is not the pretty thing you do at the end. Your values are not the thing you get around to if you can work it into the project. We have to fight just as hard to hold beauty and our deepest values and highest inspirations in our work and to fight like hell to make those things real in the world. I am so excited to see what you are going to build. I feel a great kinship with people like you in this room. It's time to build and we got to go fast. Zoom, zoom, we ride. Thank you.